2, 1. We are live all over Facebook for the Creekwood UMC Bible Study Kids Edition. So, for those of you who are joining us, or those of you who watch later who have been wildly anticipating this moment, we have allowed some people to come in and take over Bible study for a few weeks. And that is some of our beloved children from the church, and starting out with the Lessner children. So if you want to say hi and comment along that you are here, that would be great, so we know who we're talking to. And we have 3 different computers in 3 different rooms, so that everybody could have their own feed and have their own little box on the screen here tonight. So anyway, we'll kind of wait for everyone to join on. I think I heard some kids were going to join on and watch. And hey, there's the 4th Lessner right there, chiming in with a hi. So for those of you who are watching who may be new with us, especially kids, if you want to chat in the feed below, you can ask questions, or you can say your answers to any questions we ask. We would love to have your input. We'd love to do this with you, but we're going to be reading stories for the next 4 weeks that the kids pick. So Arden and Kyler. Arden, you want to wave hi?
Hi.
And then Kyler, you wave hi. So they picked 2 stories that we're going to look over today. We'll probably only stay here an hour. But then we'll ask them some questions and hear what they have to say. And, Keri, Lynn, whenever she jumps back on, will help us out as well, and I'll help us out as well too. So just remember, as your parents, if you've got let's let Keri and Lynn back in here. So welcome back.
Sorry.
So yeah, parents, if you're if you want to type what your kids are saying, that's great. Or if they're great typers, you can have them type. So I'm just going to start us off with a question that everybody can chime in the comment section with, and Arden and Kyler, you guys can answer too. So we were just talking about this around the table. So what do you want for Christmas?
Dad.
Yeah.
I don't think we can chat.
I think I can. I don't know about you, but I can.
No, you can't.
Private chat.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, you can only chat with us, but you can't see or chat with the people on Facebook. But we'll tell you who's commenting.
Yeah, so we have moms watching. We've got Steve Batchelor, who I believe you know. We've got Allie and Andy Potts are with us. We've got Finley and Griffin.
We can see that.
Oh, you can see that? Okay.
Oh.
So you got, and then Keri Dawn. Welcome, Keri Dawn. We're so glad that you're here. And Kathy and Bill. I'm assuming Bill's with Kathy. All right, so Arden, kick us off here because I know your answer. What do you want for Christmas? And everybody who's watching can chime in.
A lot of bucks.
Normally that is said with a lot more gusto. And a look like, I can't do it very well, but it's kind of like books. And if you don't give me the books, then bad things will happen.
Is there a specific genre of book you're asking for? Or is it like a whole mix?
Well, I want the Warrior Cats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the Dawn of the Clans, and then I want all the Percy Jackson series, and then I think I want the Land of Stories, and then more.
All right, people in the comments, you heard it. So if you're wondering what to get Arden for Christmas, we've got at least 7 people watching, so we can get you those first 7.
Bill Bradford said he wants all. So Griffin Wilbur comments that he wants a Lego set, and then Bill Bradford comments and he wants a book and Legos. So you've got a big kid there with you. We've got a lot of Legos. I love Finley Wilbur's response is to stop breaking bones. Kyler, what do you want for Christmas?
A lot of different things. She has literally been talking about Christmas presents nonstop and how she needs them. I have not.
I think stuffed animals was thrown in the. I think Harry Potter Lego sets is the biggest one so far that's come. Arden, Melissa Potts wants to know: have you read Wings of Fire?
No, but I have heard of it.
Okay. I have not heard of that one. So no, she has not.
And I've seen people reading it.
Okay. Kaylin, what do you want for Christmas?
I'm super lame and I want like stuff for my kitchen. I have all the basic things, but I made a lot of pies today and I realized I don't have a good pie dish. And I don't have a good like butter I don't even know what the word is. Like butter dish as well.
Yeah.
And then I don't have any servingware. Like if friends came to my house, I wouldn't have any big bowls or plates to put things on. I just have regular sized bowls and plates. So, and I don't have a vegetable peeler. I noticed that today. So I got to peel sweet potatoes and apples kind of with knives in my own hands. So it was awesome.
So I think the appropriate question that everybody needs to ask is, why are we eating vegetables anyway? Like the
Well, I made a sweet potato pie out of the vegetables that I peeled. So that's how I'm eating my vegetables the next few days.
That's a pretty good way. I was going to say, maybe we should mix vegetables in with like chocolate pie or something. I'm shaking her head.
Dad, if Mom wasn't here and I wasn't here, now Kyler, you would be eating Nutty Buddies every day.
Kyler and I would live well. Kyler and I would probably be eating it In-N-Out or something every day.
Every day. Arden, what's your favorite vegetable?
Vegetable? I mean, I like most vegetables, except zucchini and squash.
Really?
So the unique things, so I guess Kyler, Arden likes them too, but Kyler, how do you like to eat your peas?
Frozen.
Yeah.
Wait.
I didn't know.
Hang on. Whoa. Stop. Like, still frozen? Like, you're just popping them in like popcorn? And you still have all your teeth? That's very impressive. My brother, when he was little, would eat peas by putting them all on a knife and like balancing them into his mouth. So I've seen people eat peas in a strange way.
Sometimes, no.
You got other vegetables you eat frozen? You've eaten frozen green beans before. It's kind of like eating a popsicle, I imagine.
I mean, they warm up in your mouth, so it's good.
Yeah. Steve Bassler wants to know if sweet potato chips count, and I'm just going to go with yes, because I'm pretty sure, at one point they were healthy.
That's an interesting philosophy to go about.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
Oh gosh.
I think we've established that I'm not a good influence on the diet of children on Bible study. So
and we've learned it's a good thing that Arden and Lindsay are in the house. Otherwise, vegetables wouldn't happen.
We do fine. But I will say that I know Arden and Kyler know this, but I learned a lot about dietary responsibility when I got married. So it has been a good thing for me. All right. So we've learned what we all want for Christmas. We have talked about frozen vegetables. I think we're ready to dig into Bible study here. So I think Kyler drew the straw that is going to start first. So we are, if everybody has their Bible at home or a Bible app or something, we're going to do a story that most people call The Woman at the Well with Kyler. And Arden obviously can chime in too. And everybody can chime in. And that is in John chapter 4. And we read a little bit more earlier, but I think we will just start in verse 7. And it kind of goes for a little while. So, Kyler, do you want to take turns reading this with me, or do you want to just read it? You have to unmute. Kyler, you got to unmute yourself. There we go. All right. So you're going to read starting in verse 7, okay?
A Samaritan woman came to the well to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me some water to drink." His disciples had gone into the city to buy him some food. The Samaritan woman asked, "Why do you, a Jewish man, ask for something to drink from me, a Samaritan woman. Jews and Samaritans didn't associate with each other. Jesus responded, if you recognize God's gift and who is saying it to you, give me some water to drink, you will be asking him, and he will give you the living water. The woman said to him, Sir, you don't have a bucket, and the well is deep. Where would you get this living water? You aren't greater than our father Jacob, are you? He gave this well to us, and he drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock. Jesus answered, Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks from the water that I will give will never be thirsty again. The water that I give will become to those who drink a spring of life. The water that I give will become in those who drink a spring of water that bubbles up into eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so I will never be thirsty again, and I will never need to come here to draw water. Jesus said to her, Go get your husband and come back here. The woman replied, I don't have a husband. You were right to say, I don't have a husband, Jesus answered. Yeah, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you are with now isn't your husband. You've spoken the truth. The woman said, Sir, I need to see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you and your people say it's necessary to worship in Jerusalem. Jesus said to her, Hear me, woman. The time is coming when you and your people will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You and your people worship what you don't know. We worship what we know because salvation is here from the Jews. But the time is coming, and it is here, when the true worshippers will worship in spirit and truth. The Father looks for those who worship him in this way. God is a spirit, and it is necessary to worship God in the spirit and truth. The woman said, I know that the Messiah is coming, the one who is called the Christ. When he comes, he will teach everything to us. Jesus said to her, I am the one who speaks with you.
Wow, nice job. Way to go, Kyler. All right. So,
That was a long section. Good job, Kyler.
that is the longest straight scripture we have done on Bible study, just reading as a block. So, you did great. So, Kyler, I'm going to ask, so we're going to do some of the questions that we talked about, and everybody again can chime in, remember? So, the first question is, why do you think this story is important? Why did you pick this one?
I think the story is important because it teaches us to believe in Jesus and know to trust.
Yeah, I think so too. Arden, what do you think?
I think this story is important because it's telling us that it doesn't matter if we are a different race or a different color, we should still share and give and talk to people that aren't the same as us, that are different.
Yeah, that's both awesome answers. Carolyn, why do you think this story is important?
So I was telling Kyler before we hopped on, this is one of my favorite stories in the whole Bible. And I'm like, you can't tell, but I'm like almost crying a little bit. Just hearing Kyler reading the story was really sweet. So I've been to the place where this happens. I've been to Jacob's well and stood at it, and I have loved this story for a long time because it's one of the stories in the Bible where we get some girl power. And I love me a good girl power moment, and I know the Lessner girls love it. I mean, David does too. The Lessner girls love a good girl power moment too. This is a woman that we see who engages with Jesus, right? Like she knows things about Jesus. She knows like some spiritual. She knows there's a Messiah coming, and she's able to like have this full kind of, and she kind of challenges Jesus almost. And I really love that that story is here in the Bible, because I think Arden's right. The fact that she's a Samaritan teaches us a lot about how we treat people who don't look like us or come from the same place as us. But as a woman, and I hope for the two of you as a girl as well, like it's really nice to see Jesus have this moment of really equal conversation with a female. I think that proves to us that it's something that Jesus wanted for the kingdom of heaven from the very beginning.
Kyler, why do you think that the Samaritan woman was shocked that Jesus did talk to her?
I think because, like, except if they're related or if they're husband and wife, I think it's a really serious thing for boys to talk to girls.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah,
Really
it
good.
very much was back then. And Arden, why do you think the Samaritan woman was shocked that Jesus talked to her?
Well, like I said, because he was a Jew and she was Samaritan, and they basically hated each other. That and yeah, kind of what Kyler said. If she thought she wasn't enough worth to talk to a prophet or Jesus, but mostly because she was Samaritan and he was Jew.
Do y'all know what a Samaritan is?
A person that comes from Samaria.
Yeah. So before that, so Samaritans are thought to be when the Jewish people got taken into exile by Babylon. You remember that story we've been listening to in the history of the world? The Wilbers should know this one. So they got taken off into Babylon, and some of the Jewish people were left behind, and they started intermarrying. Like they started marrying non-Jewish people. And those people are the ones who are like their kids are the ones who are considered Samaritans. And so it is like Arden mentioned, it was kind of racist that the Jewish people didn't like them. It was really wrong that they didn't like them. So it's important that, and so with the girl power moment, Keri Lynn, where she actively talks to Jesus, like she didn't hold back from Jesus. That's pretty important.
Yeah.
What would all three of you say? Who are people that you think maybe we should talk to more, that we shouldn't be afraid to talk to, that may be different than us?
The kid that
Bless
looks
you.
a bit different from us.
What did you say, Arden?
The kid that looks a bit different from us or sits alone.
Yeah, that's
Now with coronavirus, you can't really meet people.
right. But after this all gets done with, right? Yeah. Kyler, do you think there's anybody that we should be better about talking to?
Well, people that like have that make different choices from us, or people that have like dyslexia or crutches or anything else.
Yeah. Look for people who we can talk to and help out or learn from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe you should be on the news and tell everybody around the election time around that, shouldn't you? You should be a teacher for civics. Keri Lynn, is there anything anybody you think you should talk to more, or we should all of these people talk to more?
Yeah, Kyler kind of stole my answer a little bit, because I
Kyler,
was
how
thinking,
could you?
You're so brilliant. You beat me to it. I think I was thinking people with Down syndrome or autism that just communicate differently than we do. I think sometimes we're afraid of people who are just differently abled. And what's interesting, if you've ever really spent time with people who have autism or have Down syndrome, they experience way more joy than the rest of us, and we could learn a thing or two about happiness and being in the moment if we actually talk to people with autism or Down syndrome.
But isn't us talking like this, and it's saying like, we're saying who should we talk to more? And we're mentioning all the kids like that look different, or the people that have dyslexia or autism. Shouldn't we not be feeling pity by them? Because by saying we need to talk to them more, it's saying that we also haven't talked to them. And so we're saying that yes, we should talk to them, but we're also feeling pity for them. And what if they don't want pity?
Arden, that is a really, really great point, because I think you're very right. There are so many times in which we think like that who we are is normal and powerful, and that everybody else needs our pity or needs our help, when they just probably want a friend, right? And so I think that maybe it's just a better thing for us to say that we just need to be able to talk to everybody. Instead of labeling certain, I think it's probably okay for us to recognize that there are people with, there are certain people and groups that that maybe us four tend to be more uncomfortable with. But yeah, that's a really great art, and that's really brilliant. Yeah, we all should make sure, because when Mom works with Zoe, the big thing is that those kids are just fine all by themselves. They just need a little bit of a little bit of help to realize they're all fine by themselves. And so we should think of the people that we're talking to as, we don't want to go in there and think, oh, I need to solve all your problems. We just want to be their friends. So thank you.
Really talk to everyone more.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
said.
I think too, kind of like what you're saying, Arden. I don't want somebody to be friends with me because they need a friend that's curly hair to check a box on a list. I want them to be friends with me because they think Keri Lynn's cool and strange and hilarious. Right. So how can we see people not just as, and I'm using curly hair as a very surface example for a lot of other things we've named. But how can we be friends with people not because we're trying to check a box, but just because we love them for who they are?
Yeah. So Pam thinks we should talk more to our parents. So just so y'all can register that. But Alex came back and said adults should take time to learn from kiddos more often. So
that's why we have kids on this month.
That's why we have kids on today. So, all right, Kyler, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Can you tell everybody why the Bible points out that it was noon?
Maybe to tell what exact time he was there.
Yeah.
Because it was at the middle of the day, and women usually, it's hotter there, so women usually get it in the morning, get water in the morning. I think the Samaritan woman came when it was in the middle of the day, so she doesn't have to be with any other people.
Yeah. Why do you think she didn't want to be with anybody else?
Because I think she thought that they were gonna make fun of her from her choices.
Yeah. Have y'all ever felt like you've been in a situation where you were going to get made fun of for your choices? Or anything that you want to share? Because I think that one of the values in sharing times when we have been embarrassed like that is that other people or other kids, other adults even who are watching right now, might feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm not the only one who did that. Often when people come to talk to me about things they're scared of or embarrassed by, they think they're the only one who's ever been in that situation. And when they find out they're not, it doesn't take away that they wish they made a different choice. It just means sometimes they don't feel as bad about, going with everybody else. So has there ever been any time that anybody's been embarrassed about things? And again, you guys can comment along in the chat section.
But yeah, if we think we get a wrong answer, I'm embarrassed, and school is important to me.
Yeah. Guess what, Arden? Do you know I've actually gotten a wrong answer before?
I know. I
didn't know if you knew that or not. I mean, I didn't know if you thought that I just cruised with straight 100s all the way through school or something. But I'm pretty sure you knew that I get things wrong on a daily basis.
Haven't you gotten a C before?
I made a few C's throughout high school and college. I didn't make a ton of them, but I made some C's, yeah. I actually made a C in a class called Marriage and Family in college. Because we had 3 grades. We had 2 tests, and we had 3 papers that we had to write, or one test and 2 papers. And I had made B's on one paper and 1 test, and then on another one I wrote a paper, but I didn't use the correct citation for my sources, and she straight up just failed me because I didn't use the citation for my sources. So I actually had a 68, and I went in and talked to her, and she agreed to bump it up to a C. So in Marriage and Family, I made a C because I didn't cite my sources the correct way. So, Keri, has there been a time you've been embarrassed?
All the time. I'm always embarrassed.
Whose computer has got? Oh, Kylie, did you turn on the microphone? Or?
What?
Did either of y'all open up something?
I did.
The questions are still up, but that's all.
Okay, whatever it was just went away.
I accept the tab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just... Okay. So, sorry, Carolyn, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm a lot like Arden. I really like succeeding. School is very important to me. So I hated getting a wrong answer. Like, not even a bad grade, but just like, if you're called to answer something in class, and you know how you can think of every right answer when you're not the person being called on, but then as soon as you get called on, you forget everything you ever learned. That's what I feel like always happens to me. I think, and there were kind of 2 questions in there, embarrassment or like not feeling like I belonged. There's a lot of places where I've been where I don't feel like I belong. Even now, like, I'm still trying to think of myself as like a real pastor. And sometimes, like, when we go to like meetings with other pastors, I kind of look around, I'm like, I don't feel like I belong, like, still. And some of that is how the space is set up. Some of that is how the meeting is. And then sometimes it's my own feelings on the inside, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kids who are watching who love Keri Lynn, you need to comment in the section. Then she is a great pastor. Kyler, I don't know where you went, but have you ever felt embarrassed?
I'm right here.
Have you ever felt embarrassed?
Yeah, when I made a mistake in like in-person school.
Yeah. That could be embarrassing. So I was thinking of a story that was really embarrassing for me. It used to be embarrassing to tell, but I went to a football camp. I've told this once before, I think at Creekwood, but I went to a football camp down at A&M after my junior year of high school. And I'm not embarrassed that I went to A&M. That was okay. But the guys in my room were not very nice to me and locked me in a bathroom and did all sorts of really mean things to me. And I was just really embarrassed and really humiliated that they had chosen me for that. And it was just like, I wouldn't tell my parents. In fact, my parents didn't even know about it until very recently, that all of this happened. I never told any of the coaches, and it was just embarrassing. And it was nothing I did. It was just, they targeted me for bullying. And because I was the one guy in there who wasn't getting D1 offers to go play football. And so it was really embarrassing. But the next question I was going to ask everyone is, what made you feel better? And what was really encouraging in those moments, on one level, was I had my Bible, that I did read my Bible, and I knew that no matter what these kids thought of me, that God loved me. And the other thing that helped is I did have some other teammates who stayed down the hall, and they just let me stay in their room up until bedtime, essentially, so that I had a safe place to go. And it was kind of like, if the Samaritan woman felt all by herself, I didn't feel alone, and not feeling and being a part of something is really healing. So, Arden, Kyler, what makes you feel better after you've been embarrassed?
Fiona.
Fiona,
Yeah,
is
I
my
would
son,
say
by the way.
pets too.
Pets, yeah.
I agree.
Why do you think the pets make you feel better?
Because a cat's senses vibrations in your body, and it vibrates in your body, and it makes you feel calm. And also, just petting a living animal that feels really soft helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Pets love us unconditionally, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know
Especially
about
cats.
Fiona. Yeah, I don't know about Fiona, but when I come home every day, Rosie goes bananas. Like I it I could be gone for 5 minutes or 5 hours and she's like, I missed you, I missed you, I missed you, I missed you.
When we come home each day, Fiona either tries to escape, tries to bite us and attack us, or it just doesn't bother.
So there's a real difference there in the amount of love shown between a dog and a cat. The Rosie reminds me of the Secret Life of Pets, where the dog just sits by the door and has no concept of time, thinking the owner is going to come back immediately.
Yeah. And
So,
Rosie's just, she'll run up to anybody and fall over and be like, rub my belly. So
so Carolyn, what makes you feel better after you've been embarrassed?
I think it's important. Pie, absolutely. I'm about to have to pull one out of the oven too, for everyone. Pie absolutely makes me feel better. I do love creating things. I've baked since I was in high school. I'm not a great cook. Like I can make chicken and not make it pink or burned, but I just don't enjoy cooking. I love baking. And so one of the things I like to do, I think, when I find these moments of embarrassment or when I feel left out, is I just am reminded of who I am, right? So I talk to the people who know me best and who are going to encourage me. Sometimes I go and do an activity that I've always done, like baking or playing my instrument that I've always played since I was little. There's just all different kinds of activities. And then sometimes too, I'll just write in my journal, like, things I know that are true about me, and I just start writing them down, and I make myself only say positive things. And that's a really helpful practice because too, if you write it down, you can go back and look at it later.
Dad?
Yeah.
Are you titled on the chat Creekwood United Methodist Church?
I am, yeah.
Yep, that's him.
Do you notice what Ms. Allison told us?
Yeah.
I think if we can start an online poll, tell you what, everybody watching, I need you to vote whether we should also have
those people are crazy.
So we're gonna
servants. They are very good and love you. You just said I love you unconditionally.
That's true. Yeah, Steve is very true around here. So anyway, we were talking about that just because Jesus gives the Samaritan woman a place to belong, and he helps the Samaritan woman remember that she is valuable and loved by God, regardless of anything she's done or where she comes from or what race she is. So it's been very important. We kind of need to move on to Arden's story.
Oh. I have to show my pie though.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
What's it called? Okay. What's the flavor?
This is a sweet potato pie.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
right.
We gotta go to the next one.
I think we need to move on. Is there any other questions or comments that Arden or Kyler y'all want to make about the woman at the well?
The woman at the well should have had a cat.
Should have had a cat, yeah. She would have been all fine if she just had a cat.
I want a T-shirt that says that. The woman at the well should have had a cat. That's what I want for Christmas. I'm changing my answer.
So the only thing I'll add about the woman at the well story is, as much as it is about the I don't want to say redemption, but the empowerment of this Samaritan woman, it also is Jesus revealing himself as God in human flesh again. And John is really big on that. So if you're watching and studying along with us, like the Gospel of John is very, very big on making sure that we know that Jesus is God in the flesh, which is an important thing in many ways. So, all right, we're going to move to Arden's story so we can keep on time here. And this is the parable of the bridesmaids, I believe is kind of what it's known as. And it is found, if you have your Bible or Bible app, it is in Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 13. It's not quite as long as Kyler's story here. But while everyone is finding it, I will just go ahead and update that the will of the people is that we should totally get a dog.
Dad, there is 7 billion people in the world.
Well, I was just going with like the 20 or so that are on our study with us right now. So
You guys could borrow Rosie for a weekend and try it out with a dog and see how it goes.
we had Buddy for a weekend. Buddy was a little small dog that we really enjoyed before we had a cat.
Did we enjoy it?
No, that was another one.
We loved Buddy. It was the Sipes' dog.
I
Remember?
know, but did we enjoy it?
Well, I mean, Buddy was a little old. He didn't play a lot, but it would be like having Bunny, like Aunt Shane's dog.
Ha! Finally, cats play more than dogs. Theo plays all the time.
What'd you say, Kyler?
What verse is it?
It is verse 1 through 13. We haven't quite gotten to the sheep and the goats that's later on in this one. So
Chapter 25.
maybe we'll take the vote later on whether we should get a dog, a sheep, or a goat as our pet.
Can you have a goat in your house?
I'm thinking that the HOA would probably say something against that here. We don't live in Fairview or Lucas where you're allowed to have goats and sheep in the yard. So, all right, Arden, do you want to read this story to us?
Okay. Here's what the kingdom of heaven will be like at that time. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went out to meet the groom. 5 of them were foolish. 5 of them were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps but didn't take any olive oil with them. The wise ones took oil in jars along with their lamps. The groom did not come for a long time. So the bridesmaids all grew tired and fell asleep. At midnight someone cried out, "Here's the groom. Come out to meet him." Then all the bridesmaids woke up and got their lamps ready. The foolish ones said to the wise ones, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there may not be enough for all of us. Instead, go to those who sell oil. Buy some for yourselves." So they went to buy the oil. But while they were on their way, the groom arrived. The bridesmaids who were ready went in with him to the wedding dinner. Then the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids also came. "Sir, sir," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "What I am about to tell you is true. I do not know you. So keep watch. You do not know the day or the hour that the groom will come."
Very nice. Thank you so much. All right, Jordan, you get to go first. Why do you think this story is important?
Because it's telling us to be prepared for heaven. We do not know when heaven will come, and we do not know when God will come.
Yeah. Thank you. Kyler, why do you think this story is important?
To like know to always like to always be prepared and yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great.
Kaylin, why do you think this is important?
I always find it interesting, absolutely what they've said about the being prepared. I've always found it really interesting that the people are divided as wise and foolish. That's one thing that I want to strive for in my decisions and in my words, is to make wise decisions and to use wise words rather than foolish decisions and foolish words. And so absolutely it's about being prepared, but I wonder if it's also about, realizing that the little bitty foolish decisions we might make could be really big ones actually. And so why we want to really think about the wise decisions that we're making all the time.
And so just kind of some so parables, for those of you who are watching at home, parables are stories with a point. You could almost say that every fairy tale you read has a moral to it, and so Jesus tells in stories. Um, so, Arden, who do you think if you were to say, okay, well, who are the bridesmaids and who's the bridegroom in this story? Who do you think they would be?
Based on us, other people, or totally random things?
Just like if Jesus is telling this story, who do you think like the bridesmaids and bridegroom are? Based on us.
Well, as in stories, they sometimes tell of just random people. Since they're not including names, I don't really classify them with anyone. Since people, I just think of random people.
Yeah. So do you think the bridegroom is supposed to be anybody specific? The one who's like calling everybody in?
Maybe God, but then
Maybe.
they shouldn't have used the word bridegroom because God has no gender.
That is very true. I would agree with
Facts.
you completely. Yeah. So,
Yep.
all right. So we've got God who's calling people back into the big wedding feast. And remember, Jesus uses this image of a big feast for heaven, or like the goodness of the world, quite often. So they all have this oil. What do you think? Like, so, Arden, what do you think? Like in the story, the oil represents?
I think it might represent the key to heaven,
Okay.
since it's saying, or the light to light the way, since it's saying they had to go get the oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing they either weren't prepared for it or they didn't have the key to heaven because
Okay.
they had to go to get in.
Yeah.
That's why I missed it because they weren't prepared.
I'm sorry. Tyler, what do you think the oil is supposed to be?
I think the oil is supposed to be like, I actually don't really know.
Okay.
That's
why
okay.
Yeah, that's why we're reading it. And you know what? When Jesus was telling these stories to all the disciples and everything, Keri, Lynn, and I did a whole thing through Mark. And every time Jesus tells the disciples something in Mark, they might as well have just been like, "What? I have no idea." They had no idea what he was talking about. So
And he would tell them like 4 times, and they would still be like, "What?"
yeah. So yeah, if you don't know, you have good company with the apostles. So, Carolyn,
Well,
what do you
and
think?
Kyler, I also want to add to what your dad is saying. It's really important, I think, when we're studying the Bible to say when we don't know.
Yeah.
There are some things in the Bible I don't know, right? So I think you set a really good example, because I think sometimes we pretend we know, and then we end up coming up with something crazy, right? So I don't totally know either. This story is not one that I've heard talked about a lot. I had to pull out some important things to read on it. Arden, I'm so glad you picked it, because this is one we don't get to talk about a lot. But I wonder if the oil represents things that, if we are the bridesmaids, and for our purposes, God is this bridegroom, and the oil is what we can control, right? The foolish people forgot the oil. And so I think I would maybe ask the question, if the oil is the key to heaven, but we have control over it, what things could that be? Are those actions that we do? Are those words that we say? What could the oil represent?
Yeah, I think it might be like the actions that we do, because if it's talking about being prepared so you can get the gate of heaven, to be prepared, you have to do action.
Yeah.
You have to take action and read up and be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
kind of
I think
actions? Yeah. So like reading our Bible is an action. Can you guys, either one of you, think of any others?
going to church,
Going to church is good. Yeah.
Praying.
Yeah.
Praying.
Praying. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Great. Sorry, that was not a question that we sent to y'all, but I'm glad you guys answered it.
Yeah, no. So I think so they're trying to be filled up with oil so they can see God, like so they can be ready. So what are like they want to, so they are filled up. What are things that fill you up so that you can, Arden, I think you use the bucket language, like fill, your bucket's full. What are the things that fill up your bucket so that you can know God's there?
petting Fiona,
Petting Fiona, yeah,
playing a game, reading.
yeah. Kylie, what fills up your bucket, or what fills up your bucket that makes you joyful and can know that God is there?
Well, like Arden said, Fiona.
We love our cat around here.
Also, I think if you actually read your Bible and get close to God, it will make you feel more joyful.
I 100% agree. I would tell everybody here that
Same.
the Bible can sometimes be confusing and has some stories that don't always make sense, but every single time I read more than just one story, I find somehow in there that um, God is with me and that God is with us and loves us. So that fills me up too. Carrie Lynn, what fills you up to let you know that God is with you?
Kyler kind of hit it with going to church piece. But for me, it is spending time with other people. Kind of like earlier when I feel embarrassed, it's important to be around people who, remind me who I am, but also remind me who God is and remind me what God says about me. And the church has always, since I was little, been the place where that's happened for me. And I want to foster the same experience for all of our kids and teenagers and adults, that our church is a place where they can come and be reminded of who God says that they are.
So I wonder if the people who were running low on oil just weren't taking care of themselves. If they were not doing things like you said, Arden and Kyla, like reading your Bible and going to church and praying and petting cats and being around loving people and reading good books. And I wonder if they weren't taking care of themselves. So they were getting really anxious and really nervous. And they went to try and find that joy somewhere else. And that made them miss maybe a great moment with God. What do y'all think? That seem on tune? I think so. Arden, you asked a really good question about this story earlier that I want you to ask everyone.
About the not sharing.
Yes.
Isn't God supposed to like it? Sharing is a good thing. So doesn't God want us to share with other people? So why didn't the wise ones share with the foolish ones? Because we should be selfless and willing to share, even if it might not mean we have enough for ourselves. It means that other people, at least we might not have a full bucket, but at least the other people have a half bucket.
Isn't that the
So,
greatest question about this parable?
yeah, Arden, I actually wrote down in my note, I take notes before Bible study every week. And I wrote down, I really wish I could change this story for the wise people share. Because if we're going to take this as an example, right? And this is why we don't have just the story, right? We have so many other stories of sharing being important. Maybe not in the case of Adam and Eve. Sharing was not ideal there. But I so wish that this story had been, and the 5 wise ones shared their oil with the 5 foolish ones while 2 of them went to go get enough for everyone, or something like that, And I think that's a really, really good question. So I want to ask like a follow-up question to y'all. What are ways that you think we can like share our oil with people, like in the ways we were talking about, like praying and reading the Bible and going to church? So how can we share when our bucket is more full than the other people around us?
Well, we can tell other people about Jesus
Yeah.
most of the time. When not trying to convince them to convert to Christianity.
Right.
We can give compliments, and we can also share our things if people don't. Like if they need to borrow a glue stick, we can give them our glue stick if we have one.
Yeah.
Tyler, you can
Tyler, do you have any?
give away all your stuffed animals, right?
He asked if you were going to give all your stuffed animals, right?
What did you ask? Sorry.
I said you're gonna give everyone else your stuffed animals, right?
Tyler, what are ways in which you like share like your joy with other people?
How do you show people that you love them?
Well,
Give them Fiona to pet.
Our Sunday school answer isn't Jesus, it's cats.
No, it's Fiona.
Yeah, Fiona specifically, yeah.
Well,
Kyler, do you have
Tyler,
anything?
can I tell you that I think, and this is for both of you, like just when you come and you say hi and you talk to me, like that fills my bucket. Like you two just being yourself and talking to me fills my bucket.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. The last story connects with the woman at the well because, even just the act of choosing to talk to somebody means that that person is important. And that fills up their bucket that somebody chose to talk to them. So that's really an important thing as we look for, like Arden, you mentioned the kid who's sitting by themselves in the lunchroom or playing by themselves on the playground or something. Like, we can really fill up buckets by that point. So I'm going to take a stab at addressing why they're not sharing a little bit in the question, even though I'm going to agree. Paul Pace agrees with you, Arden, that they should share. He also says, I don't know if letting me pet her would make me know you enjoyed me. So he's not so sure about the cat. What'd you
You
say?
would be the luckiest person in the world. Mark my words.
No one, by the way, watching this, no one will convince Arden that cats are not the greatest thing ever in the entirety of the world. So just, you might not even try. So I think the story is written to people who they are waiting on God and they're waiting on heaven and they're waiting on that was Natalia. Sorry, that wasn't Paul. That was Natalia. So they're waiting on God and they are being threatened. People are being mean to them because they're waiting on God. And let me ask, have y'all ever gotten tired of being nice to somebody? Or have you ever been impatient before? Let me ask that.
Yes.
Yeah. Kyla, have you ever been impatient? Yeah. So yeah, very, very much impatient. Anybody on the feed, if you've been impatient, go ahead and comment yes. So when we get impatient, we try and do anything and everything to control the situation that we are a part of, and it takes a lot of self-control to not be impatient. So and a lot of want to stay and to persevere through what we are trying to achieve or what we are waiting for. And so I think that one of the reasons why they're not sharing is that there are certain things like effort and desire that you can't share. You can try, like you can inspire, like Arden mentioned, you can tell people about Jesus, but I can tell people about Jesus all day long, but until they decide, you know what, Jesus is a pretty cool guy, it's not going to mean as much to them. So I think there's on some level that we should share everything that we possibly can share. But there's an old expression, Arden and Kyler, have y'all ever heard? I probably haven't ever used this one, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Have you ever heard that? So, like, it was an old West thing. You could take horses down to the watering hole, but if they're, horses are stubborn and they're only going to drink if they want to drink.
You didn't use your Texan accent.
Oh, you can take a horse down to the water, but you can't make it drink? Is that what you're talking about? Kyler loves it when I talk like this. It's her favorite thing in the entire world.
I've never heard this in the year and a half I've worked for you. And I think that's a good thing. But now that I know that this exists, wow.
Most of the accents and most of the crazy voices come out at home. We can do Mickey Mouse later if you want.
Let's put it in cat language. Arden, you can try and get your cat to greet you nicely when you come in the door every day, but she won't do it unless she wants to.
Pretty much. So I think
that was a stretch for me.
Yeah. So I think the foolish people, like, they could share oil, right? They could share, but part of the key to heaven and part of the key to being as loving as we can on earth is the desire, is the want to. And there's really nothing we can do if somebody doesn't want to. You can't make somebody love you, right? So that's my stab at why they're not sharing. But Arden, I think that is the best question I've ever heard on this parable as to why they're not sharing, because certainly we want to share everything we can.
I was curious.
Yeah, well, you asked good questions. Both y'all always ask good questions. Let's see, we're winding down here.
So important, girls, to ask questions about the Bible. Like, that is something that I think is a really good thing that you've been taught in your house, and for any of the other kids watching, know that Pastor David and I are always here for all of your questions that you have about the Bible. And sometimes our answer may be, I don't know, because it can be confusing sometimes, but it's so important, and I promise it's so totally safe to always ask questions. So thank you for that, Arden.
Yeah. Arden, Kyler, are there any last points or questions you want to make or ask about this story or anything we've done today?
Why didn't God let them in, even though they didn't have the key to heaven? Isn't God say that He lets everybody in?
Yeah,
and heaven is meant for all people?
Yeah, that's a great question too. There are some people who think that, God's love is just so overwhelming and so big that, everybody gets in. But then there are others who think, well, you have to kind of want it to be in. And the story that I like to use is there is a book that was written that so people got to go view heaven. There were people who were in what we would call hell in this story, and they got on a big bus and they went up to heaven. And where they had been, everybody could kind of just fend for themselves. But they went up to heaven and everybody was feeding each other, and it was just loving and nice, and everybody was looking out for each other. And they got to stay there the entire day to experience what it was like to be in heaven. And when they, at the end of the day, the angel who was showing them around said, you know what? We would love for every single one of y'all to be here and stay and eat with us and play with us. And it would just be the best if you guys could stay. And some of them did, but some of them got back on the bus and went back to wherever they came from because they didn't want to share. They wanted to only look out for themselves. And so heaven didn't work for them. Like, they didn't think heaven was as good of a place as it is. And that was because of their desire and mindset. So that's what is when the parables will often have like a landlord or a master saying you can't come in, and it refers to God. But really, when we think about heaven, it's an open door. It's just a matter of if we want to take the Jesus key to get inside, or if we want to, take God's invitation. So that's a good question, Arden.
So are you saying they didn't bring the oil because they didn't want to go to heaven?
So you were talking about oil being things that help you see God, and I think they got impatient waiting. So you know how like sometimes mom and dad get impatient with things on the news or with each other or with y'all sometimes, and we don't act as well when we get impatient. So I think the people who are impatient because they had been promised like, oh, this is all going to be great, they got impatient, so they went doing other things. So instead of being patient while carving pumpkins or impatient while choosing a TV show, right? Like I'll get upset because we haven't picked something, and that's not a heavenly attitude, is it? So they went to fill up their lamps with something else, or they forgot to fill up their lamps, and then that means they don't act like they should in heaven, right? Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So, all right. Well, we are at an hour, and I know that we have cookies to eat at the Lessner household. Keri Lynn has pie to eat over there. I hope everyone else has some sort of joyful treat. Can everybody who's commenting along thank Arden and Kyler for being with us today? They were special guests that we are excited to have. I'm very excited to have y'all.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no, you were very awesome on here.
Carolyn.
We love. I just realized that Kyler's been like private chatting me. Oh, Arden has.
Yeah,
been
she has. They've said the best stuff.
We got pets and peas and carrots and all sorts of stuff like that.
We've had a great time.
Yeah. So tell them thank you in the comments. Kathy Bradford says great questions and great job, girls here.
Thank you.
We got Natalia, not Paul Pace, who says thank you. We've got the Wilbur family, who Arden and Kyler are doing a play with the Wilbur kids. They're going to put on The Little Mermaid.
What? It's a movie. Movie.
Sorry,
Can
movie.
I please, for whatever it is, get front row tickets to opening night?
Oh yeah. Can you be an extra?
What?
If you're gonna watch it, you got to be an extra.
We'll see. We'll talk offline.
She's got to give you her contract demands, signing bonus. Does she get her own trailer?
All she has to do is sit and gasp.
I'm very good at that.
She's going to need her own trailer for that.
That's me in every meeting with your dad. It's fine.
All right. We are going.
Thank you all for joining us.
All right. Say bye to everybody.